Hello, Boyce and Southern students. This is Tori Tier on behalf of the Southern Seminary Writing Center. I wanted to make a brief video tutorial for you, offering some tips and tricks on how to more effectively utilize the Southern Seminary research paper template. Now, a lot of these tips can be applied to the book review template and also the dissertation template, although there are some unique nuances. Now, to be clear, we do offer on the Writing Center's website resource page. Again, here's the research paper template and a number of other resources. If you scroll down, you'll see a research paper example. Now, in this example, it has in red instructions on what needs to be done to maintain proper formatting. Very helpful, and I commend this resource to you. But for our purposes, when you download the research paper template, it may not appear at first glance to be immediately accessible. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of stuff happening in the research paper template that's pre-formatted, and then things that are available to you that may not be overtly available. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, but this video is purposed to teach you how to utilize all those things to greatest effect. So let's run through a couple tips very quickly. First, you'll notice besides these comments, which you of course can click and review at your discretion, you will have to delete these comments before you submit your paper by going to the Review tab, delete all comments and document. However, we'll leave those there for now. When you download your template, you'll need to save it. I have mine saved as a research paper template. But when you begin a new paper project, you need to insert your new title. And I recommend that you save as, and then whatever your assignment's called, sanctification, position paper, whatever. That way, if you need to, you can reference the original research paper template and compare if there's any kind of formatting differences. Now notice what I did here. If you click it once, a big highlight will appear, and if you begin typing, it will automatically add the new content without changing the format. So the format's maintained, allowing new content. I could do the same thing here. Click once, a research paper. Good to go. And you would do this for all the places where there are brackets, right? Now that's pretty obvious, but a couple things that aren't obvious are as follows. First, let's go to the actual first page of your paper and note a couple things. Number one, you have your title, which is ready to go. This should be the same exact title as the title page. The only difference is if this title was to be 2 or more lines, on the first page of your paper, it would be single spaced. On the title page, it would be double spaced. And this is correct, and you want to maintain that formatting. But a couple other things. First, this is 2 inches from the top. If I clicked it once, you'll see a space. This is a space going from the top of the margin, or to the top page margin here, to the title. This is a built-in space, ensuring that your title is 2 inches from the top. Another thing to note on the first page is that the page number begins at 1 here. Well, what I often see in student papers is first, that this is not 2 inches from the top, it's actually at the margin here. And second, that oftentimes the page number will begin 1 right here, or if it's not here, it'll be invisible, it'll begin at 2 here. And the reason why this is because an error might happen where, if you'll notice, the title page is section 1, the body of your actual paper is section 2, and if I scroll down to the bibliography, it's section 3. These are pre-formatted section breaks, which ensure that for each section, the formatting is effectively reset. And so if you don't have unique sections, then if you add a page number, it'll often, since it's one section, the page number will begin at 1 on your title page, which you don't want. So make sure that you're maintaining these section breaks when you use the template, or else you'll get some accidental changes to your spacing as well as your page numbers. There's a couple tips there. Now, if you take a look, it will tell you a couple things. Either use double space or exactly 24-point leading. Now, what does this mean? If you right-click and go to paragraph information, it will show you that the spacing is already set at exactly 24 point. So that's what they mean by 24-point leading. And in fact, it's actually easier to use 24-point leading for the template since it's already built in. It gives you an example of a block quotation, but take a look at this. If you put your cursor on block quotation, you'll notice in the homepage style guides block quotation format. So this is pre-formatted, and if you were to add a new quote that qualified as a block quote, 5 lines or longer, and it started off in this format, you can actually change it to, notice that it's body of text right now. This is the paragraph format, 0.7-inch indentation. If you wanted to change this to a block quote format, you would just click it and it would change it automatically. So that's how you would, if you were typing in the normal format of your paragraph a block quote, and then you wanted to create it, you wanted to change the format to block quote, you would just select the style right here. Let's go back though. And then same thing with your first level subheading. If I clicked it and scroll down, you'll notice that it's pre-formatted first level subheading. If I click second level, it would change it. If I clicked third level, it would change it to third level. So there's all these built-in guides ready for you to be used. So let's go ahead and use them. We'll go ahead and call this paragraph our introduction. You can choose whether or not you want to add a introduction subheading. I usually do not, as it's pretty obvious that this is your introduction. So that's your introduction. We'll call this section 1. Right, let's say in your methodology statement, you enumerate 3 steps for your paper. So 3 steps equals 3 sections. So section 1, here's your paragraph, and then now you want to create section 2, right? You'll notice I'm keeping these here for now, just in case anything happens. They are available to me, and I can delete them when my project's completed. Well, let's say I want to add section 2. I type it in, and I just click first level subheading. Notice it pre-formats it, gives me the right spacing before and after. And if I press enter, it automatically switches to body of text formatting. So my paragraph, 0.7-inch indentation, and I can start typing my paragraph, and if I press enter, I still have the paragraph maintained. Of course, if I want to eliminate the indentation, I just press delete button. So there you have section 2. Section 3 is the same. Just go ahead and go to first level subheading, press enter, paragraph placeholder, and then you do need a conclusion as a first level subheading. There you go, press enter. And so for me, this is all what I call placeholders. I can now go back and type into these my actual content while knowing that everything is pre-formatted with my section headings and my conclusion heading. And then let's say, in one of your sections you had multiple subsections, that would be a second level subheading. Same thing applies. Press enter, subsection 2, second level subheading, click it, it pre-formats it for you, resets to paragraph information, you could type in as a placeholder, and so on, right? So let's go ahead and undo a lot of this and talk about footnotes. Be the last main thing we discuss before we get to the bibliography. Notice the footnote is already pre-formatted for you. It gives you an example footnote. Now, of course, this isn't a footnote citation, it's just content, filler content. But let's add a second footnote, and then we'll discuss some things. Go to references, insert footnote. It adds the footnote here, proper size, and then it adds a space for you to begin typing. So let's say we're going to add Greg Allison's historical theology. I thought that was going to correct it for me. And I don't remember the publication information, but let's just put a placeholder there. A couple things you'll notice. First, there's a built-in space between the line separator, this, and the first footnote. That's correct, and you want to maintain that. Second, the footnote has a built-in space after it. So if I highlighted this line, there's a space right here. That's correct. There's even a built-in space after the last footnote on the page, which is also correct. So you want to keep that. The only thing that's not pre-formatted for you is that this space needs to be deleted. Notice here, there is no space between 1 and this. So as you do your research paper or position paper, you need to delete the space manually from all of your footnotes. Other than that, everything is properly maintained. Now, what I like to do is keep this footnote here with this stuff here until I add an actual footnote to my paper. And that way, I guarantee that the footnote formatting is the same. Now, if something did go wrong, you do have a style guide for footnotes, which is essentially 10 points, 10-point font times New Roman. So, for example, if you copy and pasted a URL address, for some reason it was Calibri, then you could actually highlight your footnote, click the style guide, and it would reset for you. So very helpful. I commend the use of the style guide in case, while you're correctly implementing the research paper template, if something changes, you have the style guides to ensure correct format. So once I have my actual footnote that I've created here for Greg Allison, then I would go ahead and delete my first one as a placeholder, and you'll see it maintains correct format. It's very helpful, and those are just a couple tips there. So finishing that, let's go down to the bibliography and take a look at a couple things. First, you'll notice that it's 2 inches from the top. Again, part of that is because it's section 3, and section 3 is uniquely formatted. If I was to right click and go to the paragraph information, you would see that there's a 72-point space before and a 24-point space after, and that the line spacing is exactly 12 points, so single spaced. Here's the 24-point space built in, and they even give you a handy dandy citation example. Again, let's use Dr. Allison's. So we would have Allison, Greg, R, and then historical theology, and then all the rest. Now notice, if I was to keep typing and I went to the second line, there would be the hanging indent built in for me, right? Very helpful. And again, I would actually keep this here just in case until I get at least one correctly formatted new entry, and you could delete this. But again, if I right click this, you would see there's a 0.35 inch hanging indent. It's 12-point spacing or single space, and there's a built-in 12-point space after. So when you press enter, the space is already built in, so you don't have to add your own space. And that's why using the research paper template is so helpful, because everything's built in for you. You just need to know how to use it effectively. So those are just a couple quick tips. I want to just briefly show you what a correctly formatted paper looks like versus an incorrectly formatted paper. So let's start with the incorrect format. Here, this is an example of a paper that did not use the template to begin with. They probably just mimicked a research paper template, but you'll notice the title is not 2 inches from the top. This is double spaced, not single spaced. The paragraph is 0.5 inches, not 0.7 indentation. You'll notice there's a space after the paragraph here. The block quote is 0.5 inch indentation. You'll notice with the footnotes, there's not the space built in. The indentation is not 0.7, it's actually a hanging indent. And so I intend to make a video in the future explaining how, if you start a paper and it's already done without using the template, how can you make your paper look like the template when you don't have all the style guides? You have to do it manually, and it's time consuming, and that's why that's reserved for a future video. And so as you can see, with all this being different, you want to make sure you start and throughout the entire process of writing, you utilize effectively the research paper template. And so just very briefly, here is a properly formatted paper example, 2 inches from the top, 0.7 indentation, subheadings correctly spaced, footnotes correctly formatted, etc. So I hope this brief tutorial has been helpful for you, and both for present research papers and in the future. So this has been Tori on behalf of the Southern Seminary Writing Center. Happy writing!